What's good, everyone? My name is Andy too, and I'm a filmmaker from Oakland, California. And for today's episode, we are going to be going over my gear. For instance, we have this FX6 here that I would use on a specific kind of shoot. One thing I really love about FX6 is that it has the internal NDs, which I could turn on in a daylight situation, and even in low light situations, it has dual base ISO at 12,800, which I love. It's not a huge camera, but it does attract a lot of attention. A lot of the work that I do involves travel and traveling to different destinations, which don't necessarily require a bigger setup. And most of the time, I'm actually trying to be a little more incognito when it comes to my setup, because when I'm in a foreign country, or even if I'm staying at a hotel, I don't want to stand out too much. So there are times when I will lean heavily on FX3 for a more lighter, simple setup. For both of these cameras, I'm running S-Log3 so that I can access the most dynamic range and being able to just have that flexibility in post, whether I'm dabbling with the highlights or the midtones or the shadows. In regards to storage, both of these cameras use CF Express Type A, and these are some of the fastest cards in regards to filming in 4K at 120 frames, 4K 60, and even dumping the footage, doing dailies, being able to offload the footage that you shot in a fast-paced environment is really beneficial when you're on the go and you only have a couple of days of production. In my cases, some of my trips, I'll probably be running up maybe 4 days of production and 2 days of post-production, and I'll have to get that video out by the next week. So for me, speed, efficiency, versatility, and having those internal NDs with FX6 when I need it, or going with FX3 and just using magnetic NDs, is everything I need to get the shot. And then at the same time, like, both of these cameras are Netflix approved, which means that you could use these cameras to produce a short film, feature film, which is what I'm working towards. And that's been a part of my YouTube journey of working on YouTube videos, working on short form storytelling to develop my skills to eventually one day drop the feature and share that with the world. For my ND system, I've been really leaning on the Polar Pro Helix magnetic system because they created a fast and efficient way to put on and take off your NDs. This is a 2 to 5 stop ND filter. They also make it in 6 to 9, and they also make different thread sizes for different lenses. So this is like 67, 72, 82, and I got a good handful of these kind of just roaming around for my different lenses. All right, guys, so we just got to B&H, and for me at least, it's like Creators Disneyland. So if you've never been to B&H, you're in for a treat. It's gonna be a really cool experience. One of my favorite lenses is this 90mm macro. I like using the macro lens to capture super fine line details like an eye shot or lighting in different variations. I also use it to film a lot of my product details, such as like the aperture ring, just giving the viewer or audience a sense that whatever I'm about to show is important on a macro level. I'm really enjoying the 2870 f2 G Master at the moment. It is a super versatile lens in wide range of 28, and I could punch in at 70 as well. And I could also throw it on a gimbal like the RS4 Pro, and it balances perfectly with both FX6 and the FX3. For me, when I'm traveling and I only have a very limited supply of gear, I try to keep my setup as minimal as possible, which leads me into the 7200. I do own both the 7200 2.8 and the f4 as well, but as of lately, I've been traveling a lot more with the 7200 f4. having access to the macro features to punch in on those fine line details, and also being able to throw this on a gimbal as well because of the weight. Surprisingly, I could crank it to 200 and be able to balance on my gimbal and to capture more of those super nice telephoto Hollywood looking shots on a little more budget friendly lens. And another lens I've been really enjoying, this just got released recently, was this 16mm. I found it that since this lens has released, I haven't been traveling much with my 16 to 35 2.8 because I noticed that when I do switch to 16-35, I'm only looking for that ultra wide 16. And with this being a super compact lens, it gives me that look while saving space either in my side bag or on my backpack. And it really lightens up my headspace so that I don't have to think about bringing a completely different lens. If you can imagine packing all 5 of these lenses into your backpack, it gets heavy. And this newest guy, the 50-150 at f2, is revolutionary in the sense that we've never seen f2 in these kind of lenses, especially on the Sony side. So 2870 f2, 50-150 f2, and I'll show you guys how shots like these at f2 just gives you that separation from background to subject, and it lets you have a more dynamic look, which is kind of tough to nail sometimes with the focus, but once you get it, it's worth it. In regards to gimbal, my go-to gimbal is the DJI RS4 Pro. What I love about this one is that I can easily flip from vertical to horizontal with like a 2-step process, and it can handle both my FX6 and my FX3 as well, and it gives me all-day battery life. And for my travel tripod, I really enjoy this Peak Design carbon fiber tripod. I have 2 of these, one that's a little more beat up, and this one has always been very travel friendly in regards to weight and size. And surprisingly enough, it can handle the FX6, and I've also thrown a Burano on here too, and it can handle the weight. Reliable and also compact. I think sound is really important. It's actually its own department on a film production, and I dabble around with different tools when it comes to shotgun mics, to wireless lavaliers. It's one of the toughest departments for me, but I do love the idea of sound design, composing for film. It's a department that I'm still exploring, and I'm still learning new stuff about audio every day. And there are some times when I actually use the internal audio on both FX6 and FX3 just to establish some natural sounds. And when I want to get close up and on my sounds and with detail, I'll use a shotgun mic, or I'll even use like a wireless lav to capture just like very fine line details when it comes to sound. I also have a piano that I dabble with, sound effects. I have a huge sound effect library just so that I have access to my different soundtracks, from Foley sounds to soundtracks I've composed myself, to some of my favorite sound effects that I always use, and some signature sound effects as well. My favorite microphone that I use for my voiceovers is the NT USB mic. I've been using it for years. I travel with it. I actually have 2. I have one that stays at home in the lab, and I have one that I travel with. For my A camera, the main camera that you've seen earlier in this series is the Shure SM7B. This is a production studio quality microphone, which yields higher production quality sound. But personally, even on a more budget friendly side, the Rode NT USB mic is my go-to. All right, you guys, so that pretty much wraps up this episode. So far, we've done the pre-production work from scripting to production to getting our locations on point. And then segueing into the gear, we went over some of my favorite lenses. We went over some of the rigs and supporting cast, as well as the audio, which is really important. And for the next part of this series, we're going to actually hit the field, execute some of the shots on our shot list, we're going to bring this storyboard that we put together to life, and we're going to link up with some of my crew members and really start to bring this film to life. So with all that said, see you guys on the next episode.